TPS, welcome to the show. How are you doing? I hope you're great. This is the Protagonist Show. Josh Duder, Dan Vaughn, here to talk about all the topics in soccer that we feel fit to talk about. Welcome to the show, Mr. Duder. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good. Not as good as you. You're delirious, Dan. Delirious.
I'm past my bedtime, sir. I spent the last hour and a half standing on the sideline watching 9, 10, and 11-year-olds running around kicking a soccer ball.
It's a joy. It's a joy. Enjoy it. All three of my kids played soccer when they were younger, and all three of them opted out of it. So if yours are still running around, soak up every minute of it.
I have a rule. You don't have an option. Excellent. Well, that's it. That's it for banter. Just kidding. I will tell you, I'm going to get into this later, but I did watch a soccer match today, and I forced my 7-month-old to watch it with me. So I don't know how interested she was, but we did watch a little Manchester United action. We'll get into that later.
Tough love.
But you gotta support the badge, you know? You gotta support the badge. For those of you listening to this on podcast, I was patting the Manchester United badge on my chest. So,
and this is now a Manchester United podcast for those of you that are listening.
Glory, glory. Man
oh
United.
My
God. Let's do it. I'm just gonna force Josh to talk about Manchester United.
Let's go.
Okay. All right. Well, what we are going to talk about in our first topic is the U.S. Open Cup, which wrapped up the round of 32 at the time of recording last night. That finished off. This was primarily USL Championship, a little sprinkle of USL League One. I think there was a Next Pro. I think one Next Pro team in there.
Yeah, one
everyone else was MLS. So that's what we had. Let's review what we got as far as results, and then we'll do a little wrap up of round of 32. I will tell you, we probably won't be talking much about what comes after the round of 32 at Protagonist Soccer.
There's more?
Well, yeah, it just sort of died here. The results for the first night, we had 4 matches on the first night, Tuesday. Nashville SC 1, Chattanooga Red Wolves 0. I love that people were rooting for the Red Wolves. We love that. Switchbacks FC 1, New York Red Bulls 4, Tacoma Defiance 2, Portland Timbers 3. Sure, you were watching that. You're not.
Maybe.
Hey, you're still a Timbers fan.
It's a little bit.
Pittsburgh Riverhounds 1, NYC FC 0.
We're all big Riverhounds fans now.
all of us are Riverhounds fans. Wednesday matches kicking off with Rhode Island FC 1, New England Revolution 2, Philadelphia Union 1, Indy 11 1. That went to penalties, which of course Union advance 5-4, Lou City 0, Minnesota United 1. I have to admit, there's a tiny little sweet spot of love for Minnesota United for their NASL days. I still love them just a little bit.
Okay.
But just, it's like.
Were the Loons in the NASL?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. My favorite jersey, literally of all time, the fanned Loon wing that was on the front of that jersey. That's an NASL jersey original. I love it. Love it.
I vaguely remember that.
It was a hot minute. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, it's my turn. Look at that. Day 2, as you had started day 2, Wednesday, May 7th. Tampa Bay Rowdies 0, Orlando City SC 5, Chicago Fire 4, Detroit City FC 0, St. Louis City 2, Union Omaha 0, FC Dallas 3, Avialta 1, Austin FC 3, El Paso Locomotive 2.
That would hurt.
Yeah.
It hurt.
Sorry. Phoenix Rising. You know what? I didn't update this. Phoenix Rising 1, Houston Dynamo 1. I do believe that went into added on extra time, in Houston Dynamo, I think, won 4-1. So that's ugly. And then San Jose Earthquakes 2, Sacramento Republic 1. Dan Vaughn, any of these results? I mean, look, there are some pretty brutal results here. Any results in particular stand out? And then what are your thoughts on the Open Cup going forward after this round? Where do we go from here?
I like what I saw. I don't know if you're familiar with, and I'm going to say his name wrong because I'm doing it on my memory, and my memory's awful. Jake Silic, I believe is his name. He does a lot of work behind the scenes at thecup.us. He said that we follow the Open Cup like March Madness, And more often than not, things go chalk. And whenever we get cup sets, that's when things are going out of the norm. And so there's going to be years where there's a lot more chalk than there are cup sets. And I think that's a really good way to think about that, is that has to do with the draw. It has to do with luck. It has to do, there's just a lot of things that go into who wins and who loses a soccer match. But in the end, this is a lot of chalk, a lot of MLS. And like you said, we're all Riverhounds fans now. Love that they knocked off NYCFC. Not my favorite MLS side. If even in the hierarchy of MLS sides, I'm really not an NYCFC. But yeah, they're down low. But I will also say that these results, there were some really close ones too. I mean, Indy 11 and Union went to penalties. I also know that I was. This is great. This is behind the scenes here. A friend of mine who lives in Austin. He's from Birmingham in England. He's a big Coventry fan. And he had texted me to tell me he was taking in a local soccer game and shot me a picture. He now lives in Austin, and he was at the Austin FC match. And I laughed because I checked the score and I saw that El Paso was up 2-0. And I was like, I hope you're enjoying my local soccer team beating yours. Of course, it talked a little crap. And then what happened? They ended up losing 3-2. Listen, we want the Open Cup to be successful. It's a great competition. And it is good for soccer. And it is true that I will have less interest in this because MLS sides are basically the entirety of the field is now MLS aside from Pittsburgh. But I can also say that this competition, let's be real, no team outside of MLS has won in 20-something years.
Right.
So, let's just accept that. Let's accept that at some point we are going to get to this point. Even if it's in the championship match, right? Even if it's in the final could be whenever you finally get down to just MLS sides. But the reality is that MLS wins this competition and will knock out the lower seeded sides. And we root for the cup set, and that's okay. I'm not going to cheer for an MLS side. And I saw some people on our social media were talking about how we shouldn't have a problem with MLS sides winning because it was good for the cup or something. And I don't buy that. I really
see
don't.
How that's good for the cup. I don't see how I think there was this argument last year, remember, or 2 years ago when they first started withdrawing their teams from the cup, and people we need them in the cup. They better. And I thought, I don't see why. If they want to do their own thing, listen, I would love to see the Portland Timbers win this because this is something they've never won. I think the owner of the Portland Timbers is a bastard. I think the league that they're in is got some questions.
Listeners, he also calls me that, so don't. This is not. Yeah,
that's my sweet talk for you. But I think that the league has got some dubious intentions. But still, the fans of each team, this is their local team as well. Yeah. This is their local soccer, and they have every right to enjoy every Red Bulls fan out there who got to watch their team go on the road and get a win at altitude over the USL Championships champions. That's good for them, especially a Red Bulls team that's been suffering for titles. Did they won anything? I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
Yeah.
Didn't Terry Ann Reed play for them a little bit?
They did, but I think they still didn't win a cup.
I'll be honest, I don't know.
But there's this gulf, and I wouldn't say class. Class kind of gives it a misinterpretation, but a gulf in talent or collective talent or depth. And I think depth maybe the box I'm going to tick on this, because if you look at some of these games, they were super close until the end. And I think some of these championship teams just ran out of talent to pull off the bench. They ran out of gas in extra overtime, double extra overtime. And that's why you see these games. I mean, Philly and Indy went to penalties, but some of these, they went into extra time, and these teams just got crushed in extra time because they just ran out of steam. So I think that there's the talent when you kick off is good. I think it's almost even Steven to kick off. But as the game grinds and as it wears on, I think some of these players, they have to rotate out, and you're not getting the same level of talent off the bench in USL Championship that you are in Major League Soccer.
I can tell you, last week I interviewed Wilmer Cabrera, the coach of.
Great interview.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Of Locomotive. This is a man that coached the Houston Dynamo to an Open Cup championship. And he talked about how building a roster and trying to maintain balance when you're playing a very congested schedule that also features Open Cup matches, where in this case, they had won 3 matches coming into this match, but they were going to have to play an MLS side. That's not an easy thing to do. And he was saying that, look, they played, I was there, New Mexico United on the weekend. Then they've got Austin FC on the road, and now they're heading to Tulsa to play another game against the championship. That's a lot to ask of a team, and managing and balancing that roster between these matches. And I think that you're right? This is where depth plays a role, because if an MLS side carries – it's not just that they do carry the same number of players, right? But it's that the level of talent down the roster at the 18th, 19th, 20th spot is a step above typically what a championship side is going to have. And so that starting 11 might be able to compete, but once the roster begins to dwindle down, if it's injuries or if it's just a need to substitute because of fatigue, that's when these problems begin to emerge. That's when that difference in class, and let's be real, it comes down to funding. It's the ability to pay more for players and putting them on your roster. But overall, it's been a fun, 3 rounds of soccer. I will say this round of the Open Cup was not my favorite. And you're right. We're all going to be Pittsburgh Riverhound fans moving forward for as long as they're playing.
It's either going to be the shortest Protagonist preview or the longest when I get 20 writers to all write about the same team.
All about the same match. Yes. I love your thinking. That's how champions do things, buddy.
Absolutely. Dan, I want to move on if it's okay. We got the WPSL, 151 teams of the WPSL get under 151, Dan Vaughn. They get underway this weekend. I know we have league specific pods for the Super League and the W League, and they're great. But Dan, we've been huge fans of the WPSL. Like, we've been tracking it since day one here at Protagonist. And let me read out these opening weekend games real quick, and then maybe you could tell us how important the WPSL is to the women's soccer ecosystem and which clubs or games you might pick out to keep an eye on this season. So here's the games that are kicking off this weekend. Pensacola hosts Tallahassee Reckoning on Friday at Ashton Brosnahan Stadium. Florida Roots will see Gulf Coast United at Public Sports Park on Saturday. City SC hosts Utah Surf at Westminster College on Saturday. And Griffins FC give Utah Surf their second away game of the season just days later on Tuesday at Zions Bank Stadium. So, like, what teams might stand out to you in the WPSL, and like, how important is this league to women's soccer?
What's wild about all of these women's leagues, including the W League, WPSL, the UWS, is just how short their seasons are, and they cram matches in there. It is wild that just in the period of like a month and a half, they'll knock out 8 to 10 matches, and then if they qualify, we'll play playoff matches after that. It's nuts how fast it is. But you have to realize, and this is, I'm not going to say anything that people don't know. Cal Storm they were the champions last season. There's plenty of reasons to expect them to continue to compete this season. Cal Storm is a club that plays in multiple leagues, including the W League in the USL system, also the WPSL. It would not surprise me if we see Cal Storm playing in a professional league eventually. It would not be a shocker to me. They have the pedigree. If you look at the players that have come out of that program, they are a funnel of talent going into professional leagues across the world. And Cal Storm is just a consistent contender due to their ability, not just to source players, because there are plenty of talented young soccer players in California, but their ability to develop them, play them within a system that functions, and deliver titles. Cal Storm is really the best of the best when it comes to women's amateur program. I'm sure I just pissed a bunch of fans of amateur women's soccer across the country. But you love a story like Austin Rise. That's a club that was founded out of sort of a malfunctioning club where things were not being done correctly, not operated correctly. And Austin Rise was put together by the players. That's a team, if I remember
Great
correctly,
story.
is planning on joining WPSL Pro just in a couple of seasons. So fun stuff there. This is the players taking the reins in their hands and just rushing forward. KC Courage has been a team that we recognized as our club of the year just a couple of seasons ago. Well-run program in Kansas City. The list goes on and on and on. And let's not forget Chattanooga Football Club's women's program plays here too.
Yeah.
We're fans of what they do in Chattanooga. They're a well-run club, and that's important to note. That is a complete club, top to bottom. They recognize all facets of the game and work within that, and they support them. They get great support from their fans. There's a lot of really fun teams and fun programs participating in this, and you would be shocked whenever the NWSL draft isn't going to happen anymore. Thank you. But when the NWSL draft used to happen, you would see these names. You'd type in their names, and it would come up. Oh, play the WPSL. Oh, playing the UWS. Oh, playing the W League. These amateur leagues are so vital to giving women an opportunity to cram in a short season of talent development and the ability to play both within a different squad from, say, their college program or their high school program, and then play against significant talent as well. Some of the best soccer players in the world that have yet to go pro are playing in these amateur leagues. The work that they do is almost completely unrecognized by the professional leagues. It's one thing I love about the USL Super League. They've really made a point to try to recognize where those players are coming out of, because these amateur programs are vital to the development of these players. So when the NWSL used to do the draft, they would always recognize the college, as if these amateur leagues didn't exist, as if these players had
they just materialized into.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's frustrating, right? I mean, because these programs are often, while small and underfunded, they're run professionally. They give these women an opportunity to play against top talent and also develop their talent in a very growth positive, growth focused atmosphere. And because of that, I feel like these women really benefit. So the WPSL, biggest amateur women's league in the country, and absolutely vital to the future of the sport. I ask you, do you have anything that you're interested in, that you're focused on in the WPSL as they launch this week?
Absolutely. And as a matter of fact, I'm a little disappointed that I forgot to wear the correct shirt tonight. As much as I love MPLS City and everything they do, I meant to wear my Columbus Eagles shirt, designed by a player who was in college. I think she was in doing like a program in design, playing soccer for Columbus Eagles, and they hired her to do some graphic design work. The Eagles are always a fun team to keep an eye on. They finished second in the East Great Lakes Great River Conference last year, but the Ambassadors are out of the table, so Corktown or Beedling will be their biggest challengers for that conference. I expect big things out of Columbus. Clarkstown SC, they were perfect in the regular season. They won the East Northeastern Conference, advanced to the regional semis, the regional final, and they lost to eventual champion California Storm in the national semifinals. So they had a great run. I expect that to continue this year. Great program. And then Friday, May 30th, and the reverse fixture on Sunday, June 22nd. Even though Spokane Shadow won the Pacific Northwest last year, congrats to them. I have a special place in my heart for the West Side Metros in Portland. Shout out to Corey. Fantastic human being. They used to loan players down to my AC Chehalan Valley team that you remember I ran. And then the Vancouver Victory, who would always give us a game at least once a year, and they participated as a guest in the Oregon Women's Open Cup. They never said no. Didn't matter what funds were needed or fields were needed. Those two teams have been ambassadors of women's soccer in the Pacific Northwest. So I'm going to go to either of those or both of those at some point.
Love it, man. It's always great when you get out and support. I do believe WPSL has, I think El Paso Surf playing in El Paso. I should make a point to get to that too.
Bring your kids.
I'll make them go watch some soccer. They're going to play soccer. They sure as heck can go watch it.
That's the path.
This is the way. Joshua Duder, while we talk about women's amateur soccer, I think that we should maybe zoom out a little bit and talk a little bit about how the women's soccer landscape is beginning to shape itself. And I don't know that it's shaped effectively for the growth of the sport. If you think about now, there are 2 Division I leagues. That's the USL Super League and the NWSL. And there are not a lot of teams between them. I'll be honest, we're probably talking about, a little over 20, somewhere in the mid-20s over the next couple of years. Then there's Division II, which is coming for WPSL Pro. That looks to be, I think, at least 15 teams. We'll see if they do more than that, and they're aiming to do more. Then underneath that, 3 national amateur leagues. All of those spread out. We talked about, obviously, the WPSL with 150 some odd teams. I believe the UWS is somewhere between 80 and 90, if I'm correct. I could be wrong on that, but I do know that it's over.
I think they have a little fewer this year. I think that they've been eaten up by the two other leagues.
Sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
And that's a great point. That's where I'm headed here. And then the W League, right? The problem I see is that there needs to be some organization, and we're early enough in the development of the women's game that there could be some insight and some direction supplied by U.S. Soccer in a way that could create a functioning pyramid. Maybe not pro rel. I know that's a lot to ask, and I'm certainly not saying that is what I'm talking about here, but just laying out a structure for the effective growth of these leagues and of the sport itself. I think that, like you said, these leagues are eating each other. USLW League has certainly taken clubs out of both of those other leagues as it's grown over the last 3 years. I think that's a problem. I don't think that's good for soccer long term if that is the way we're going to operate, just constantly plucking each other's teams from each other. I don't think that's an effective method for growth. But there needs to be more unity and more working together. And this is what, honestly, the women's game is known for. Fan bases that connect with each other and work with each other. The need for solidarity and unity around social issues. This is what women's soccer has been really great at leveraging in its fan bases. Why can't we do something to make this entire system more functioning for players? What do you think should be the biggest priorities as they map out the future of women's soccer?
I think let me start with the biggest drawback. And then I think we can kind of assess a priority. One of the biggest drawbacks with organizing, did my mic change? I don't even know how to fix that. Bear with me here. So when I go to...
Is that better? Sorry, making this fun. Well, okay, so I want to get back to where I was with I think money has become such a big issue with sports money is a big issue with everything, right? And I think especially so now when I ran a team at the lowest level, I ran AC Chehalis Valley as a local soccer team for women. Every single week, Dan, was an absolute challenge to get women to come and play. It's not that they didn't want to, but as they had to prioritize their days and their weeks as mothers, as business owners, as employees, as wives, as best friends who had weddings. These are summer leagues. Sometimes these women have to take weekends off to go to a wedding, or maybe they get pregnant, and things and families change, right? And so one of the things that could really change, that could really impact the way these leagues are possible to organize around, and get that solidarity that you speak of, is to somehow, I don't say flush the league with cash, but create a system where women feel incentivized to go to a game and play. I think I found that men were more willing to set everything aside and go play soccer, and women valued their time differently. And it's not better or worse, but just differently, and that they were more interested in taking care of their family and their loved ones around them. And so sometimes soccer was second important. I don't know how to change that priority, maybe other than seeing more women, not just as players, but as GMs, as coaches, as influencers in the sport. And I think when they can see they're all in it together and they're not just doing this for some dude that owns the team, but they're doing it for themselves, I think that could be the big game changer. So prioritizing women into roles of authority and roles of leadership maybe is funding, yes. Leadership and priorities would probably be the number one thing that I could identify as a game changer.
I think a big help too here would be the application, administration, and rollout of a women's Open Cup. I think that pretending that this is not possible, or that the difficulties of scheduling are just too much to ask, is ridiculous. And I truly believe, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, I truly believe this. We have the deepest pool of talent in the women's game in this country, in a way that I honestly do not think exists in any other country, even as countries have come, to start to challenge us on the international stage. Mm-hmm. The reality is that like we talked about roster depth here, there are players playing in amateur leagues that could be starting in professional leagues in other parts of the world. Mm-hmm. And so to me, the use of the Open Cup as a platform to both highlight the work being done at the amateur level and also to highlight these players that maybe need a stronger, larger spotlight on what they're doing and what their skills are. Mm-hmm. I feel like the Open Cup is a no-brainer if you care about the long-term success of women's soccer in the United States. It just seems obvious to me. And why U.S. soccer is not doing this, I don't know if NWSL has their finger on the scale to keep this from happening. I don't know, but I'll tell you that certainly Amanda Vandervoort, the director or commissioner of the USL Super League, is very pro Open Cup for the women. And last night or 2 nights ago, we had Lee Neves, who is the owner of Stockton Cargo, on the W Show, our podcast, which if you haven't listened to it, I'd recommend it. It's fantastic. But he talked about how much he would love to see a women's Open Cup so that he could get his team and his players onto a bigger stage and give them the opportunity to play against both other amateur leagues, other amateur talent, and then the chance to go up and play professional. It just feels like, I don't know, again, why not? And to me, start the marketing now. Go to women-centric products and companies and get them on board as sponsors of the Open Cup. Mm-hmm. You are making history by making this happen, and I think you could do great things.
I had a few guys, team owners, women that were in the game, telling me that we were onto something in Oregon. I had started an Oregon Open Cup, right? And so the idea for me as a single state to get the top amateur teams, between 4 to 6 teams that were participating in the couple years that we were able to run it. They enjoyed it. The biggest problem was scheduling conflicts with their season. As you had mentioned, their season is so packed, and these amateur players are coming out. They're as soon as they're out of their college programs or released from their NCAA programs, they're jumping into 2 games a week for 2.5 months, and there's nowhere to fit these games. So it would be interesting to see how you can schedule that. I found that a huge problem that we couldn't get around, and that's why ultimately it wasn't funding that killed the Oregon Open Cup. It was scheduling conflicts, and then you're trying to get WPSL and you're trying to get USLW and UWS, and we had regional and local leagues, and getting those schedules to all jive together, on top of trying to find a field and referees. And then additionally, one of the problems was these players are registered within their league, and some of them are registered as USASA players, and some of them are just registered as regional players. And then there's an additional cost of like almost $30 per person, $35 per person to re-register, even though they already have a player card. So we're talking for each player, it's upwards to like 35, I would say $70 to $80 a season to get an amateur card for the year. Some of these leagues, the bigger leagues like USL, might pick that cost up, but the local leagues might not. So those are just some of the things that if someone wanted to come in and throw a bunch of money at this and fund this, they would have to work with the league organizers, the schedulers, the teams, and say, this is important. Let's set aside Wednesdays, right? Wednesdays leave open for an open cup for qualifiers and for different rounds. I don't know how else to do it, but scheduling would be the biggest hurdle to get over.
I think creating windows, just like you do for international soccer at the highest stage, is something that you could potentially do if it's picking a particular day of the week that doesn't get scheduled onto, so that you allow for that. I don't have to be the smartest person in the room. I just think we can get it done. Let's get smart people. There's two of us here. Let's look forward. What are we going to watch this week? Josh, I'll tell you, I'm going to be watching the W League's Richmond Ivy, I think one of the fun projects from last season that really sparked a fire in the Richmond fan base, which is already strong for the Kickers. They have absorbed the Richmond Ivy into their fandom and are 100% supporting them. They'll be playing Virginia Beach United in a Chesapeake Division matchup. It's their opener Saturday, day before Mother's Day. I don't think you could beat this. This is fantastic stuff. The W League is just getting rolling. We had one match early last week, and now we've got it's not a full slate yet, because man, once the W League starts rolling, it gets really full, really packed. But we're starting to get there. I think there's 10, 15, 20 games this weekend across the W League. So Richmond Ivy, can't wait to see it. Good matchup. Who you got?
For me, I'm going to do New York Braveheart, who started the season hot, 5-0 in the Northeast American division of UPSL. They head to New York Empire at SUSA Orland and Cohen Complex. Empire are third and can leapfrog Renegades if they can get all 3 points at home. The season is young, though, Dan, and it's getting hot in UPSL.
Very nice. Well, Josh, you know what time it is. I hope you're ready for this. Are you ready for this?
I'll do my best.
I believe in you, Mr. Duder. Hit it with your off topic. Let's go.
According to journalist Jacob Tierney of Buffalo Business First, PVS Chemical Solutions will try to convince city officials not to allow a new soccer stadium near its South Buffalo chemical plant. It's just not a well thought out idea to put a stadium into an industrial area, division president Dean Larson said. Buffalo Pro Soccer plans to build a 7,600-seat privately funded stadium in Elk and Lee Streets in Buffalo at the site of former Medaille University complex. So there was already a stadium there, Dan. And it goes on and on. Basically, when I read this before, I had it under 30 seconds. I don't know how I must have just got it wrong.
I don't believe. I will say this,
I want to finish my point. I
want you to finish your point, but you wrote 3 minutes worth of words and tried to smash it into 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Too much.
Finish what you're saying.
Okay, look, there's always more to the story. But basically, Peter Marlett, who you spoke with,
I did.
He said, we've looked into this. We've had the air inspected by independent contractor to look at this, to test the air. There's always more to the story. And I want the stadium and I want this club to be successful, Dan, but I wonder if there might be a safer, less controversial location.
They debated two. I know they were split between two different areas. One was a more centrally downtown located area, which is probably less industrial, I'm guessing. I don't know. But for whatever reason, they said that they wanted to go with this one. But listen, that stadium project is a cool idea. I don't know. I would also say I don't tend to side with the industry side, to be honest with you. If you're putting out toxic fumes that are affecting people around there, maybe you shouldn't do that. That doesn't sound like a good thing. And I don't think that we should avoid it. I think that maybe they should clean things up. But that's my uninformed opinion. Who am I? You know me.
Who are we?
Ready to burn capitalism to the ground, I guess.
Well, maybe you'll get your countdown correct, and maybe one day I will get mine right.
I believe in you, Joshua Duder. Someday you will. But for today, I'm going to talk about Manchester United. I watched that Manchester United match today as they beat Atletico Bilbao 4-1 at Old Trafford and advanced to the Europa League final. And how pathetic is it that Manchester United has to be excited about playing in the Europa League final? It's embarrassing. I'm a fan of Manchester United, but I find this to be a little empty and disappointing. That's my opinion. I was still excited when Mason Mount hit that shot, though. I ain't gonna complain about that.
Never heard of him.
Never heard of Mason Mount?
No.
You're missing out, buddy. Joshua Duder, I think we finished up. I finished up this episode of TPS.
We did it again.
I believe in you. Your off topics are going to tighten up. You're going to be a professional. You're going to crush it.
Less is more.
I would argue that your off topic should have been one of our topics because that sounds like an interesting discussion to have. That's what I think we should have been done. Who am I to tell you how to live?
It's like a whole article's worth.
It's like it was a whole article. I like it. That's it for this episode of the Protagonist Show. Thank you for listening / watching this show. If you're listening to it, check us out on YouTube, on the Protagonist Soccer YouTube. We have video. You can watch us talk. Or if you don't want to look at us and you're tired of our YouTube channel, head over to Protagonist Soccer on any place that you get your podcast. We're there. A final bit of business. If you want to support what we do, check us out at patreon.com/protagonist soccer. That supports us. That's literally our only form of income at this point. It is tremendously helpful in paying for all the projects that we do and the funding of our websites and web hosting and podcast hosting. That all comes out of that. Thank you for your support. But if you'd like to get involved, protagonistsoccer.com. Patreon.com/protagonist soccer. I'll get there when I get there. But that is it for this episode of TPS. We'll see you next week. Have a good one. We're out.